Hey guys, Jerimiah Alexander. We're at the range doing some sighting in with our weapons. Here we've got a bolt gun. We're going to talk about bore sighting this, and then we're going to talk about getting a zero at 100 yards. So the first thing is we make sure we're clean and free, make sure we have no source of ammunition, nothing's downrange. And what we're actually going to do on this particular RPR rifle, there's a button here I can push, and it will slide this bolt out of the way, this buttstock out of the way. I'm going to remove the bolt out of this guy. Push this button here. Okay, I want to keep that nice and clean. But now what I can do is actually, since I just barely mounted this scope on here, I'm going to look at my 25-yard target. I'm going to look through my bore. I'm going to get my bore lined up with what I want to shoot. Okay, I got it. Got it centered in the middle of my target. I'm going to real gingerly come up. All right. I'm going to dial these. Now in the case of bore sighting, guys, if you see that you need to come up, you'll have to dial down. Same thing with right and left. If I'm looking through my bore and I see that I need to come to the left, I'll actually have to dial to the right. We can talk a little bit more about that later, but for now, turn your turrets until what you're seeing through your bore is what you see through your scope. So let's finish that up. There. All right, that looks good. I'm gonna put my bolt back in. Close my buttstock. What I'm gonna do is shoot a 3-round group at 25 yards. And you might ask, why not 100 yards? Well, we will zero eventually at 100 yards, but we have a brand new scope. It's just easier to get on paper and see where the adjustments need to be. So I'll put my ears on and we'll shoot 3 rounds and we'll go down and take a look at it. All right, guys, so here we are. We've done setup on our rifle already. One thing we haven't talked about here at the range yet is body position. So I hate to say this, but it's the truth. You know, 80% of the errors we see shooting are our own fault and not the fault of the gun or the bipod or the optic. So make sure you're in a sturdy shooting position, good ammo, everything's kind of set up tight, okay? You want to get right behind your rifle here, right in your shoulder. I've already set my eye relief up for myself. Okay. Firing. I'll shoot 2 more. I'm not aiming where I hit. I'm going to aim at the same point for all 3 shots. Firing. One last one to confirm, although it looks like the same hole. Okay, pulled that one a little bit, but let's go downrange and take a peek. All right, guys, here's our 3-round group. We definitely got on paper. We have 2 shots here in this hole. I pulled this one a little bit, obviously. They're close enough that we can see we need to come down about 1.5 inches to come to center, and we need to come over, we're gonna say roughly 1 inch. So let's go back to our rig and talk about what it takes to get that done. 1.5 inches down and 1 inch to the right. All right, guys, so we found after looking at our target, a couple things. 1, that I pulled a shot. 2, that we need to come down 1.5 inches and over to the right 1 inch. Well, if we had an MOA scope, this is an MRAD scope, but if we had an MOA scope with 1/4 minute of angle adjustments, those same 1/4 minute of angle adjustments 4 times closer, because that's a 1/4 minute of angle at 100 yards. We're at 25 yards, so that same click, that same 1/4 minute click, is going to move my impact 1/16 of an inch. So 16 of those would be 1 inch. 16/16 would be 1 inch. And then we would do 8 more for our 1/2 inch. So I would have 24 clicks down if I was with an MOA scope. With an MRAD scope at 100 yards, I have a 1/10 MRAD adjustment. So at 100 yards, that moves my point of impact 0.36 inches. And just to compare that, a 1/4 is a 0.25 inches. So, but again, we're at 25 yards. So that same 1/10 adjustment is going to move my point of impact here at 25 yards it's about 0.09, but let's just say 0.1, 1/10. So I would need to come 10 clicks down for the 1 inch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then we have a 1/2 inch, so that's 5 more clicks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And 1 inch, we need to come to the right. So that'll be 10 clicks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Put our ears back on, send 3 more rounds, and then we'll move it out to 100 yards. All right, we made those adjustments. Let's send some rounds downrange. Again, I'm aiming at the same target, at the same center point. Firing. Let's go downrange and see what's going on. All right, guys, so you can see our first group here, and we came down that 1.5 inches and over right that inch. Got a nice little smiley face here. We could see we could probably stand to be 1/4 inch high and about 1/2 inch to the right. So I'm going to make those adjustments on the scope. We're going to move this target back to 100 yards, and we're going to do another 3-round group. All right, guys, we've made those adjustments. We've moved our target back to 100 yards. We're going to send another 3-round group. 3-round groups are great because you could tell it gives you a better average, right? 1 could be a little off. You could have pulled it a little. 3 gives you a rough estimate. I like to do 5, but 3 is sufficient for getting sighted in, especially for hunting and things like that. It's also good. I don't have a rear bag here, but if you can have a bag so that you're real steady when you're sighting in, or even put it in a sled that locks it down just while you're getting your 100-yard zero, that would be a good thing to do too. But we're going to work with what we got here. We're going to send 3 rounds at 100 yards to this upper left-hand target, and we're going to see what adjustments, if any, we need to make. Here we go, firing. All right, let's go look. All right, guys, we're out here at 100 yards. We've made our adjustments. We can see we're pretty dang close here. If anything, we could come over to the right about 1/4 inch, which 1/10 MRAD adjustments, you're gonna come over a little more. It's gonna be 0.36 of an inch instead of 0.25. So pretty darn close here. The last thing I'll like to do after I come and check my group is I'll send 3 more just to confirm, and then we're going to change our turret. We're going to slip it to 0 and talk a little bit about that. So let's go do 1 more group and get our turret set. All right, guys, we've confirmed our 100-yard zero. Now what we want to do is 0 reset our turrets, and what that means is we take our turrets off and we place them back on with 0 lined up with our front indicator lines here. Gives us a good starting point for any adjustments that need to be made. To do so, I like to push down on the cap here, just make sure it doesn't move, and I'm going to loosen the 3 set screws. Sometimes it's just 1 set screw on the top. The process is still the same. You just loosen the set screws and you'll pull the turret off straight up. Then I'm going to put it back down with 0 facing me, which gives me just a really nice initial point to make any adjustments from. And if you use ballistic applicators or applications, that helps to have a 0 too. We'll do this with the windage and the elevation. Today's a nice day, there's no wind. So I would say, just as some extra advice, I feel like our windage is really dead on here with no wind. The wind changes so fast. Usually you don't need to dial for that wind. You just need to see where your impact was and make a really quick adjustment. because the wind may have changed by the time you turned your knob. And then you've got your knob kind of cranked around, you don't know where it is. So pretty safe to leave your windage as 0 once you got a good 0, and then you can use the reticle, you know, things like that to do holds after that. Now I'm going to shoot 3 more just to make sure nothing went weird when I slip my turrets, just because I like to make triple sure. Measure twice, cut once, right? So let's do that. All right, guys, we've got our turrets 0 reset. We're going to shoot 1 more 3-round group just to make sure nothing got turned or bumped during the process, and then we can feel real comfortable with our 100-yard 0. So let's send some downrange and see what we got. All right, guys, so we slipped our turrets to 0. We forgot to make our adjustment to the right, and we can see how that's lined up. So I will go remedy that, and I'll move over about 1/4 of an inch to the right. And we are set, guys. 100-yard 0, you're good to go. Make any adjustments from that point.